government, judicial power, and you can't quarrel with that. Unfortunately, it wasn't in tandem with sound public policy. All the judges said was that no matter how illogical, wasteful, and indeed disruptive as a state actor can be, as long as the state actor is clothed with law, they can go ahead and do whatever they want to do. We advanced arguments to show that legal luminaries from across the world have suggested that when discretionary power is given to a state actor, it should be exercised in line with fairness and sound public policy. Unfortunately, it wasn't read, and so I suspect that others who read will probably just use this for the purposes of enriching their history.
Okay, thank you very much, Franklin, on that. So he has explained his side of it. My panelists will reserve the right to comment on the matter as part of their conversation. But let me start from Lawyer Mesa. The conversation from the years.
He believes I've spoken, so you can start from him. I mean, it's fine. He hasn't gotten a word since.
Okay.
Let's understand. Because you even wanted to speak before Franklin.
I'm starting from Nipaku before I come to yourself and Lawyer Mesa. So, Nipaku,
yes,
what happened once the justices had read out the ruling? Because it looked for a few minutes that there was a sense of misunderstanding in the court. If I am to take the comments by your party's general secretary, for instance, into account, once the verdict had been rendered.
I think the problem was, at least I was not in court, but the commentary I heard, because it was consolidated, and Mesa would bear me out. Sometimes when you sit at the bar and the bench is reading, normally if they have the full judgment, you sometimes even may not sometimes hear whatever it is that the judges are saying, because sometimes they speak in a certain tone and deliver. Now, in a consolidated suit where they are dealing with the reliefs of the parties almost simultaneously, if you are not careful, you may hear this is granted, and then you go through your reliefs and say, oh, relief 2 granted subject to. You need to be careful. So I was thinking that perhaps because this was just to do with the specific orders that had to do with the reliefs, they may have printed out the orders, and then immediately it is read, you just walk to the registry and pick a copy. But I think there was a time lapse between the time the orders, no, not the judgment, the orders were read, because the judgment itself is July 15th. Between the orders that were read and the time that it was available to the lawyers to pick up. So initially, if you had some part of your reliefs were granted and all that, perhaps the safer thing to have done would have been to wait until you had the entire ruling, and then you could have then commented. But obviously, once you left the courtroom and the journalists themselves had heard different things, because there was inconsistency even with the reporting from the courts, I think it was understandable that maybe certain aspects of what should have been a clear narrative was not that clear. I think it is nothing, nothing extraordinary in that he perhaps made a mistake with respect to some of his
significant mistake.
No, his articulation of some of the.
Why didn't the lawyers speak?
No, but I think that the lawyers
themselves. Surrounded by 6 or 7 of them.
I think that the lawyers themselves made comments afterwards, but said that they were reserving all their comments until they picked the written orders of the court. And I think that it's communication. Even if he had not got all his facts correctly, they didn't create any unnecessary upheaval in respect of what the court said and what it didn't say. I think that
but in the minds of the general public, there was significant upheaval because they said the NDC said they won, MPP says different.
What? I mean, I think that at the end of the day, you have to look at what you went to court with, look at what the court said, and what the impact or the result is in respect of how we move forward. I think that is what we should be looking at. Because in the evening, the leader of the party made a definite statement yes. articulating the position of the party in respect of what had gone on. So I don't think that there was anything amiss.
No problem there. So
yes, I understand that some people may try to make a mountain out of it, that he said some parts of our reliefs were granted and that he feels that vindicates our position in respect of certain things. Yes, some part of them, I'll come to that, some part of the reliefs in our opinion were granted, but certain significant portions of those were also not granted. And for us, we've moved on.
Okay.
What I think is important is that what did we go to court to do? What did we get and where are we going? I think those are what is important.
Yes.
The first point I just want to raise is the fact that the Supreme Court is the ultimate court in this country, deciding on, vested with ultimate judicial power. You may like it, you may not like what they have to say, but once they speak, you are bound. And so if you recall when we had our presidential decision, the MPP led by President Akufo-Addo disagreed with the decision, but they were bound by it. That is the game that we have adopted for ourselves, and so we respect the decision. You may disagree with it and disagree strongly. In fact, there was even a forum organized at the National Theatre or Conference Center where various interpretations were made in respect of that decision. But at the end of the day, we all lived with it. We went to the Supreme Court primarily to ask for the existing voter ID. I mean, you had ancillary declarations that the right to vote should be not it's an accrued right, and therefore we should not be it should not be taken away from you capriciously, that the right to vote should be respected among them. But at the heart of our case was the fact that we wanted the existing voter ID card to still be allowed to be used as a form of identification, and that has a historical antecedent. The last voter registration process that went on, if you had the previous voter ID, what you simply did was that you walked to the registration center, presented it, and those details were taken, and you automatically were given the new card. It was with the biometric card. So we upgraded from the black and white to the biometric. So this time what they did was just to take your fingerprints. So you could say it helped to make the process a quicker process. In the light of the COVID and all, we said that, look, if you allow this, it meant that because the two documents that the Electoral Commission was basing on the CI, that the passports, where we all agree that
ID card,
and that close to 2 million people have passports in this country. Even out of that 2 million, we have a number that are minors. And the Ghana ID card, which even as today, 10 million have been issued. Basically, or let's say almost 11 million have been, from the statement that you read, 11 million have been issued. How many have actually got the card? Maybe let's say another 10 million, because they are still distributing.
Yes.
So the fact that you've issued it does not mean that the person has actually picked it out. So that is also something that we must bear in mind. And if you are looking at a potential voter population of about 17 million, then it means that, or 16 million, 17 million, the numbers keep wavering. It means that you have about 6 million people who are yet to be put on the NHIS, the Ghana card for that matter. And so it is important that we create the opportunity for as many people as possible in this COVID era to be able to easily get the new card. Because at the end of the day, there was a relief that we initially had brought, but we struck and we were doing that. Even the Electoral Commission's power to compile should be interpreted to mean a one-off event, and then they will subsequently. These are issues that ultimately you have to test at the courts, because it is the court that has the power to interpret. As we sit here today, the court has interpreted clearly the scope and power of the EC when it comes to the issue of compilation. So from now onwards, between us, the political parties, if there's if and every year the EC says it wants to compile a new voter register, they have the power to do so. That issue has been settled once and for all, and that brings certainty in our governance structure. Another thing is once the EC gives a CI, and the CI has been validly passed, how it will choose to exercise the power of compilation and all that, so long as it respects the discretionary issues under 296, it's also clear. They have the right to choose. So even if there's a more so-called cost-effective mechanism, you, the outsider or the individual, cannot dictate to them how they should go about exercising their powers under Article 45. And that is also fine. So we are clear in our minds that once the EC is embarking on an exercise, brings the law before Parliament, Parliament approves it, no one can tell them how to exercise the said power. That is also accepted, because there's nothing, those things were important, so that in our framework and our governance system, tomorrow, when there's a new EC, or when the EC comes out with a particular decision, or when there's a CI that says that do this, do that, and it is passed, you don't have anybody crying that, oh, we don't understand the powers of the EC cannot do this, because now good precedents are being set. Today, the electoral, the courts have indicated to us that all persons under Article 42, because that is for me very critical. This is the directive of the Supreme Court in respect of the eligibility, that under Article 42, this is a directive that it gave, says that is this relief, that's relief 2, in respect of the relief is granted subject to the fact that all eligible voters must make themselves available for registration as directed by the Electoral Commission pursuant to the CI 126. And then they give a consequential order that it is hereby ordered that that's the first order, all stakeholders and the Ghanaian eligible voters are directed to comply with Article 42 and 45 of the Constitution and the CI 126 as regulated by the EC. Now, Article 42 is clear. You must be 18, you must be of sound mind, and you must be a citizen of Ghana. Once you meet those three criteria, you must present yourself at the police station as prescribed by the registration center as prescribed by the EC. Have the necessary documentation, if you have the Ghana card, if you have the passport, or if you have someone who has registered and who can guarantee for you, and the person must not guarantee more than 10 people. I think also it's a point of education. You can, if you register, you cannot guarantee more than 10 times, so that you don't think that because I can guarantee, because I've registered, I can just guarantee, beyond, because I think there are sanctions that are prescribed if you do that. So I think as a point of education, we should all just take note. Once you meet the criteria and you present yourself, the EC has a duty to register you. So long as you have met the criteria, the Supreme Court's directive is that you must present yourself. And once you present yourself, you must be registered. So long as you have conformed with the CI. So for us as the NDC, yes, we are disappointed that our argument for the inclusion of the existing voter ID card was not upheld. You can express your disappointment, but beyond that, we haven't hit the street. We haven't done anything other than to tell our supporters that
you go register.
You go and register. That is the democratic way of doing things. You go to court, you present your arguments. You are either you may get some granted, you may get all dismissed, you may get some also not granted. But at the end of the day, once the court has made a decision, no matter how strongly you disagree with it, you must comply. And so we have urged our supporters and Ghanaians that we went to court to seek to make it easier for as many of you as possible with the old ID card to be able to to go in there and to have a quick process, because obviously in this COVID era, if you had your old ID card, you would have gone, presented it, and like you did in the past, your details will be taken, and then your biometrics taken, and then you are given your new card. However, the EC and of course the AG being at the center of it, we can definitely extend it to the government, says that you must have what? Your passport. If you don't have a passport, you must have the Ghana card. If you don't have the Ghana card, you must have someone guarantee for it. It is going to be inconvenient, no two ways about it. It's going to drag. But as Ghanaians, we have a duty to fulfill. However, once the Supreme Court has decided that once you have these two items or the guarantor, you are entitled to vote, persons must ensure that their legal right to be registered as voters is upheld. So that if for any reason someone interferes with that right without a lawful basis, because the Supreme Court has given a directive, and being the highest court of the land, if you go against those directives, you'll be in contempt. They should ensure that their rights are protected. I just want to make a general legal observation.
Okay, quickly.
That's my concluding statement on this. I think the Supreme Court, if you look at, if you're a student of legal history, has been consistent in its attempt to not be drawn into micromanaging institutions. If you look at the historical rulings, even up till now, it is important to also try and let them be as insulated from our day-to-day politics as possible. Because imagine that they had given a directive, or they had maybe agreed to our position and had allowed the
old voter ID card.
And then there was crisis at any of these centers in respect of technology or whatever it is. We will all, I'm sure, partly blame them for allowing this to go in. So I think that to some extent the Supreme Court decided that, well, this is the EC's position, it is the independent body. Did it violate any law in respect of the CI, in respect of its mandate? Once it has a constitutional mandate, even if you and an interested party believe that the way it is going is not cost effective, or that there are better options, so far as it is the one vested with the authority, allow them to operate. And I think it is a good precedent moving on. These kinds of decisions always guide our conduct in the future, and I hope that in the future no one will complain when similar CIs come before Parliament and do not favor or are not convenient for other parties. But in principle, the NDC has accepted the decision. We have urged our supporters to go out in their numbers. We have indicated the fact that once they meet the criteria, they are qualified to be registered as voters. And we are urging them that no register will deny the Ghanaian people their opportunity to kick out this government. And so they should go out in their numbers, because if you don't have a vote, you can't what? You can't kick out this our good friends in government. So please register in your numbers. I think that cannot be disagreed even by Mesa himself, that we need to whip up our supporters to go out in their numbers and to register and vote.
All right,
so those are my opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Quickly, you can send your messages 0549 986 996 or 0550585832. And a few have come in. I will take those, and then we will hear from Honorable Andrew Mesa. He's been writing quite a bit. The NIA response to the former President John Dramani Mahama ended up that the Ghana card registration is smoothly on course. The voter registration using this Ghana card will start on Tuesday and supposedly will also be smooth. So if by Tuesday one does not have the Ghana card, then one will have to be one will also have to struggle for the other two cards. We have frustration in waiting. Okay, quite a complicated message. Okay, so Godfred, were you not amazed listening to the NDC lawyers who couldn't interpret the Supreme Court rulings correctly, but the one who is not a lawyer like Majority Leader was able to interpret it correctly? Please tell lawyer Sidun Ketia, okay, Abdallah Yendi, the Supreme Court ruling, my dad, who does not have a passport nor a Ghana card, will have me, his son, with a Ghana card to authenticate the Ghanaianness of my father. This, he says, it is pathetic. So keep the messages coming in 0549986 05505885832. I'll take a few on Twitter. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, lawyer Andrew Ejapamesa, Member of Parliament for Second D constituency, will have his take, and then lawyer Yawapong will also enter the conversation. The big issue returns.
Imagine if you can get all the understanding on some of the difficult subjects you struggle with in school. As a student, do you feel dissatisfied with how hard it is to figure out the subject you're learning? Or as a parent or guardian, do you worry that your child is struggling to understand some of the subjects in school? Well, now you don't need to sign up for extra lessons or tutors. Simply tune in to Class Act, Mondays to Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. on City TV. Class Act is a show that seeks to enable senior high school students gain a much better understanding of what they learn in school. All you need is a TV, a chair, your notebook, and your pen. Get clarity on subjects such as maths, English, IT, and science. Class Act airs every Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on City TV on DSTV channel 363 and GoTV channel 182. Don't forget your pens, pencils, and your notebooks, and tune in to Class Act, only on City TV.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back to the big issue. Now let's hear from Honorable Andrew. Mr. Honorable, so what have you made of the Supreme Court ruling?
You see, I'm not going to mince words at all.
You never do.
And it's surprising that our friends on the NDC, even in their defeat, are being deceitful and dishonest.
Oh no, he said he uses words as
leave that to me to decide.
I was very kind.
He's not talking to you.
We sit here and you indicate boldly, confidently, that you went to court purely to seek Ghanaians' easy registration. Is that what they did?
You disagree? It could have been part of the ideal.
You saw their rate. You saw the reliefs that were contained in there.
It might not have been clear, but it would have been implied.
Please. How do you imply a rate that says that, per their understanding of the Constitution, the EC, when they compile a registration once, are not supposed to compile another registration but only to review by adding and expanding? Is that not what he said? And that too, the decision to exclude the voters registration card, the existing voters ID card, from the process was going to disenfranchise many Ghanaians. Is that not what he said? And so how does he then now tell us that he went to court only to ensure that Ghanaians had easy access to register?
Because perhaps if those two had been granted, the process would have been simpler.
But that's not true. If you look in CI 72, the data that was required for you to get your name onto the biometric register of 2012 is the same as is pertaining today. Your own name, date of birth, we all filled forms in 2012, even though we had voters ID card from, I believe, 1994 or 2004 rather. We filled the forms. Didn't you fill forms when you went to register in 2012? The AC official didn't take your details, didn't take your father's name, your father's hometown, your mother's name, mother's hometown, your residential address. Wasn't it the same process? Except that if you had a voter's ID card, then they won't ask you for further proof of your citizenship. That's all. So what are they talking about? How is the process that is going to take place from Tuesday different from what transpired in 2012? That's why I said that they are being deceitful in their utterances. Because you see,
please, we are lawyers.
So then he understands himself.
Certain words will let us degenerate this show.
No,
you see the
show will degenerate if I allow it.
Yeah, so I am questioning him.
Don't question. Don't worry. I reserve the right to question.
His use of certain words will only provoke a response. That's all. So let's maintain the friendly.
I reserve the right to allow the response.
But let's maintain the friendly posture. So as much as possible, our choice of words must be guided.
Don't worry.
That is all I'm just saying.
I am comfortable with this choice of words at the moment.
Very well. Then I think that will inform my position as such.
I empathize with the civil society organizations relative to the amicus and what they sought to do. Just they've been consistent. I mean, to a large extent, with respect to questioning the cost, respect to why they think that a new voters register was unnecessary, because they have challenged the EC's candor and questioned indeed whether the EC was being honest and truthful to the people of Ghana on all sorts of issues. But you see, I would have thought that right at the very outset, they would have filed a writ on their own to seek some direction from the Supreme Court, rather than seek to provide some expertise or expert advice in a matter that had taken clearly a political nature. You get the point that I'm making? In any event, I agree with me, Papu, that clearly the Supreme Court cannot direct any agency to the extent that they are applying the law in how they operate. And so to ask the Supreme Court to direct the EC to do a certain act that you think will save the country cost, I wasn't sure that the Supreme Court was going to oblige that decision anyway. Okay, so I guess that they themselves, Imani, and I don't know about the rest, but Imani is a very respected CSO as far as I'm concerned. And for me, CSOs are useful to the extent that they are able to bring their perspective in shaping our governance and impacting our democracy. So to that extent, I will urge my friends, Franklin and Co, that yes, you can win it all. There are times when the courts will take a decision that may not be palatable to you, but that is what it is. They are the final court of our land, and when they speak, we all ought to respect the position that they take and then proceed. Now back to the NDC. You see, This whole court suit that they brought, I have always insisted was needless from day one.
Why?
What did they seek to achieve? Now today, they turn around and make it look as if that, oh, well, we tried to make things easier for you, but if the Supreme Court has agreed, by all means, go out there and go and register. When did their opposition to the compilation of a new voters register begin? April 2019. At the time, if you recall, there was an IPAC meeting where some statement or communique was issued thereafter, and they came saying that because the EC had not itemized the compilation of a new voters register as an agenda item, but had only brought it up as any other business, that cannot in itself amount to an agenda that the political parties have discussed.
But that's a legitimate concern.
How?
That's a legitimate concern.
How?
For a matter as important as that.
You see, so
it could not have been shifted under EC. It was an important concern to raise.
I don't have a problem. But the fact that they raise a concern doesn't make it important. Please, anybody who knows corporate governance, why do you think that any other business is put there as an agenda item? Because between the time that the notice of a meeting is delivered and the day that the meeting is held, some matter may have come up that will require attention or some discussion at the meeting. So if a decision is taken in AOB, it is illegitimate.
But was a decision taken in AOB?
Please, no. But EC is the entity that is mandated by the Constitution to manage our electoral process. And so if they indicate to the political parties that, look, yes, this was the purpose of the meeting, the agenda that was listed on the notice, but that we are informing you that the commission intends to compile a new voters register. Was that an end in itself, or it was only an information of the commencement of a process? But listen to them. The kinds of noise that they made. Right from the very beginning, Mr. Elvis Friankra's audio that you and I all heard was to the effect that, look guys, we cannot under any circumstances allow the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register. Because if that happens, all the huge sums of monies that we're going to procure for our electoral process, God forbid, if we lose, all that money would have gone to waste. That was the beginning of all the noise. To the extent that even before the CI matured, they went to court. And Godfrey, look at the chronology and the change in their own posture post the budget approval process in December, where at the special budget committee, members of the NDC on the committee even sought for more money for the Electoral Commission to enable them carry out their programs for the year 2020. So how altruistic, how nationalistic was their Supreme Court action? It was self-centered. And so I've asked them that, look, guys, as far as I'm concerned, yes, you may wish for something to happen, but at least be truthful and let us know what it is that your real motives are.
So you're questioning the genuineness of their motives?
Absolutely. I have never, that's why I said right at the outset, I'm not going to mince words at all on this matter. What it is that is in the 2012 voters register that the NDC insists that by all means, that is what we should use. Indeed, the Supreme Court put them to an election. And I've heard some members of the NDC say that the court forced them to abandon their first relief. Seriously? He's a lawyer.
Well, I haven't heard that one.
Oh. You haven't heard?
No, I haven't heard that one.
You haven't heard Amaliba, who is a lawyer on the case? Google it now. That the Supreme Court forced them to abandon their relief one. I have mentioned Amalibe's name. He's a lawyer. In fact, he was standing behind Mr. Seydou Nketia only 2 days ago, together with Edwiji Tamaklo. He's a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. I go to court, and the judges, having read the brief, put it to me that, counsel, in the light of the issues that your colleague on the other side has raised, do you still stand by your claim 1? If I believe in that my claim, I said, yes, my lords, I am. You don't think you have to abandon it? No, my lord, I think that this ought to stand because of reason A, B, C, D, E. Is that what transpired in court? Yet they turn around and say that the Supreme Court forced them to abandon their relief 1. How is that truthful? How is that honest? And so if I say that they should be truthful and not be deceitful, I have a basis. In any event, what was the issue? The Electoral Commission says that, look, I am compiling a new voters register and building a new voter management system that will enable me deliver a credible election that will be devoid of rancor in December 2020. Engagement processes started as far back as April 2019 when I announced. But for COVID, by now would have finished. I would have expected that a party that is interested in ensuring that we have a credible election, which in any event cannot be decided today, because the voting takes place at the polling station on December 7th. Would participate, cooperate with the Electoral Commission. That's not what they did. They threatened mayhem. They threatened chaos.
Again, I have not heard that officially from the NDC.
Do you have to hear it officially?
Well,
you haven't heard their chairman say,
we have to hold on.
Please, Godfrey, you haven't heard.
Hold individuals to personal opinions and then party positions to party positions.
If the chairman of the NDC, if they are director of elections, national officers of the NDC, I'm not talking party communicators, make comments that we all hear on the airwaves, it is not an official position of the NDC because it's not written on the letter.
Is that what they were threatening mayhem?
You haven't heard.
Okay, go on, proceed.
So you see, now they claim that the EC is seeking to disenfranchise Ghanaians by restricting the requirements for identification to only passport and Ghana card. Deliberately, since the commencement of their action, they have deliberately omitted the guarantee bit. And that how many Ghanaians have passports? And they put a figure out where they got it from, I don't know, 1.2 or 2.5 million. The Ghana card, how many have they issued? Only 7 million. If you put it together, the 16 or 8, in fact, they put a figure 18 million Ghanaians who are eligible to register. So the Electoral Commission is seeking to disenfranchise millions, and that was contained in Mr. Mohammed's statement of 2 nights ago. Is it factual? Godfrey, is it? In any event, let's go back to 1992. At the time, how many people had voters ID cards? Nobody. In fact, the voters ID cards that were done, I believe, in 1989-90 for the district level elections was the first time under the Fourth Republic that, or the processes leading up to the Fourth Republic, that voters ID cards were issued. Did people have Ghana cards then? How many people had birth certificates? How many people had passports then? Was anybody disenfranchised? Was the vouching system not in place as far back as 1989-90 and has been part of our electoral registration system till date? So if they go out there and disingenuously put it out there that the EC in connivance with the government, is seeking to disenfranchise millions of Ghanaians who don't have Ghana card and Ghanaian passports. Is that honest? So when I say that this entire action was needless, was dead on arrival, that is the basis.
You do not think that it served a purpose for entrenching democracy? You do not think that
you see
there was a need to indeed fight for those persons who, let's be honest, a lot of people don't have passports. Let's be honest, the NIA registration has had flaws. As a station, we have recorded and reported on several instances where there had been issues.
Absolutely.
And
that's
based on this, a political party cannot raise concerns to that extent.
But you think, what was the purpose of me citing or referencing you to 1992 or pre-1992 when lesser people had passports and there were no Ghana cards then, but still people got their names on the voters register? Because the framers of the law recognize that within our socio-economic space, socio-political space, not every Ghanaian has a birth certificate. Not every Ghanaian has a passport. Not every Ghanaian has a Ghana card. And so we give room for people, but of course, every Ghanaian was born in a community. Every Ghanaian lives with people. Every Ghanaian has family members, or most Ghanaians. And even if you don't have family members, you have friends who know you. And those people can attest to your Ghanaianness. And so, pre-1992, throughout all the times that we've issued voter cards, room has been made for people who do not have those ID systems to still get their name on the voters' roll. So how do you then go out and say that there's a deliberate attempt when that option has not been taken out from the CI to disenfranchise people? So if I say they are dishonest, that's the basis. Okay, and I was scandalized.
By what?
By the former president's statement 2 nights ago when they had X over their faces, when the Supreme Court gave an emphatic ruling. And I have a copy here. Okay, affirming, and I hear people say that the Supreme Court contradicted itself in the Abu Ramadan case by saying that the voters' ID card then was valid. Forgetting that the Supreme Court in that decision stated that consistent with the law applicable at the time, which was the CI. What's the applicable law today? CI 72 then. What's the applicable law today?
So now 126.
CI 126. Indeed, CI 126 is only amending regulations 1, 3, and 4 of CI 72. So what's the fuss?
Okay, let me say 5 minutes.
And so if you hear people that there's tension in the country, and you hear our House of Chiefs speaking to issues, it's all because of the NDC's dishonesty, lack of candor on their part, their attempt to deceive and railroad all of us into advancing their parochial interest of ensuring that at all costs the 2012 register is retained for election 2020. Thankfully, the Supreme Court has spoken. And today, all of a sudden, they have become the apostles of new voters register.
But they've accepted it in good faith. What is wrong with accepting it?
Do you consider this statement as accepting the decision of the court in good faith? I'm quoting Mr. Mahama, former president. We are deeply disappointed and strongly disagree with the court over this outcome, which has confounded many legal experts and thrown the country into a state of confusion. Which part of this country has been thrown into a state of confusion? Which part of the decision has confounded many legal experts? Which part? And then in another breath, in the same statement, he goes ahead and makes all sorts of comments impugning ill motive on the part and some connivance between the Electoral Commission and the government to seek to steal the mandate of the people. He quickly forgets that in 2016, when people were making comments against the Electoral Commission, same man told us that the Electoral Commission is independent. Elections are won at the polling station. There's absolutely no way that any political party can connive with the Electoral Commission to steal the mandate of the people. Quickly forget. Because like they say, we have short memory. So, post the judgment, they have become the acolytes, the proponents of compilation of a new voters register. What they said would never happen. As late as last week, Sami Jemfi, that there would never be a new voters register. Today. So, I'm confident that the good people of this country know them for who they are. I subscribe fully and have been consistent right from the very beginning because of the Electoral Commission's decision to compile a new voters register. Because when I read the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Special Budget report in December, where they said in black and white, documented that the system that they're going to go into the election with cannot be relied on. That alone, for me, as a political actor, was sufficient. Because how are we going to risk going into an election where the manager has openly declared that my system is unreliable? It's the NDC, which I trust the good people of this country, will keep them in opposition in December when that eventuality occurs, going to accept that register, knowing very well that the Hausa has captured the Electoral Commission saying that the system is unreliable. So that alone, for me, as a peace-loving Ghanaian, felt that, yes, cost, by all means, we could use the money for something else if the system was viable and sustainable. But to the extent that the Electoral Commission has come out with that statement alone in the Parliamentary Committee report, there's no guarantee who is going to win the elections in December. But I trust that the work that this government has done, yes, there are shortfalls. Why?
Certainly, you have a minute.
But we're definitely going to go out there and indicate to the good people of this country what it is that we've done in our first term, and compare it to what it is that the NDC did in their first term, and ask that they renew our mandate, because if they do, we'll deliver better than the NDC on the other side.
Thank you very much, lawyer.
So where the threat of parent?
Andrew Ejapamesa, Member of Parliament for Secondary Constituency. I wanted to go to Lawyer Pond, then I'll give you.
I just need a few minutes. I mean, he made some statements.
Well, a few is 5.
I don't mind.
Lawyer Pond,
if I could just, you know, our normal practice. Right of reply. At least let me take a few.
Your right of reply is not taken away.
Let me take a few.
By your
I think you have ended. Respectfully, I think you have ended. And I've asked.
Lawyer Pond.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
We have 5 minutes. So make it quick.
I will make it quick. You see.
So if you make statements that require my reply,
everything is in order.
One of the things I've always admired about this show is our language. You understand? And so
I don't know why you're going on and about that.
No, it is important. You see, the fact when we posture an attitude of, you know, dealing with the issues on the table, it does not and should not be interpreted to mean that we are not equally able to address some of these things.
Is that part of your response?
No, it is part of my response.
No,
it is part of my response. You see, I
doesn't pertain to the arguments he has made.
No, he's made arguments. You see, I represent a political party.
So,
a political party that is made up of very honorable people.
Certainly.
So when you come here and you call my party manipulative, you call my party untruthful, you call them dishonest, please, we will not take moral lessons from the MPP.
But he hasn't said those in a vacuum. He said those in arguments.
When you make an argument, you can make your argument without insulting us. We are not. We at least we speak the English language and we understand it. So when you attack the nature of my party, definitely would get a response.
But I also think that hold on.
You know my posture on this program.
I do.
And so I think that when he went into those dimensions, you should have reined him in.
No, but that is why I also say you also know my posture. Hold on, you also know my posture on this program.
You see,
and I also understand language. If he were being disrespectful, if he were being insulting, I would have reined him in. If somebody says you are being deceitful, the person has not insulted you. If the person is making it within a certain context,
so
you can disagree. You can disagree with what he's saying. That's what I'm saying. If you feel you disagree with it, disagree.
You see, you have. I think that this program
it's not an opportunity to say you called me deceitful, so I also want to call you deceitful.
No. It's not. It has nothing to do with that. You see,
yes,
we measure our language on this program not because we cannot use those words, but because those words impute certain motives which are unfair. And when you are put to strict proof, you can't prove them. You understand? Okay. So I think that it's important that we maintain standards. And those standards must imply that we deal with each other in good faith. Right. So I object strongly to the language that he used to describe my party.
Points noted.
Thank you. The other point that I wanted to raise is that, you see, if we are trying to go back into history and to deal with parties that have attacked institutions and have tried to denigrate the personalities that have headed those institutions, then we cannot look far at the NPP. Mr. Kennedy Ajapon had the nerve to call the past electoral commissioner, I don't want to even repeat the words that he used to use to call, and to imply that there were personal relationships between the said commissioner, a lawyer of repute, and the ex-president, to the extent that she was going to manipulate the elections for the ex-president and the NDC. What did we hear the MPP say to those comments? They were roundly endorsed, including ministers who were irresponsible for women's and children's affairs, saying that if there was no truth in those allegations, would the man have made those allegations? What did Mr. Mensah say in those times? If you attack the personality, and that's why for good reason I cannot mention the things that he said. When you attack the person of the former electoral commissioner, attack the members of the electoral commission, said that they had taken bribes in order to manipulate the election, and at the end of the day, your candidate is declared the winner by the same person you denigrated, who is being deceitful, who is dishonest. You come and say that all die. That was the words of your presidential candidate.
But you see me,
let me finish.
No, I expect rebuttals to the point.
I am dealing with the issue of honesty, track record. I'm dealing with the issue that if it is,
it's like you just want to,
I want to do what? He says that we have attacked the electoral commission and that we have made them, we have bastardized the institution so as to seek to win political power. And I'm telling you that who has the track record of such behavior is them. And I gave you an example. And at the end of the day, when the electoral commissioner said they were the winners of the election, what did they do? They manipulated and took it out of power. You understand? Where the Flagstaff House receives a petition and calls back the petitioner to say that you didn't do A, B, C, and D. Come back and pick your petition and do A, B, C, and D.
These allegations you can substantiate.
I mean, is it? Didn't the first petition that went for the removal of Charlotte Osei have the unnamed persons and they were told to come back and take the petition? Is this not of public record? You see, we have a decision of the Supreme Court. You may gloat that indeed, and I don't see the NPP as a party in that decision. So here's this gloat, the fact that you back a position of a party. I think those are the things that they do that reinforce our fear and our position that they are in bed with the Electoral Commission. Because if you are a party and you say that, oh, you are for what do you call it? A new register. Leave the EC, who is an independent body, to do its work. You are in government, you back the position of the EC, and you deliberately keep running it in our face that, oh, the EC needs a new register because the old register has issues and has things. And yet that was the register that elected your president. We must as well delegitimize the president. If the president believes consistently that that old register was that bad, then he should resign and say that, oh, on principle, because that old register was bad and that old register was unfit for purpose, I was declared the president on that register. I don't want to be president again. I need a new register. That is the double-faced nature of the NPP that sometimes you can't help but have to deal with.
Right.
We are all capable of dealing with those issues,
Right.
but we just want to be straight and focused on our issues on the table.
Your 5 minutes are up. Thank you.
I thank you.
Nipapo Samoa Ado, very upset this morning. Let me go to Lawyer Yawopong so that we can calm some of the Lawyer Pong.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so let's talk about what happened in court this week. I think Lawyer Mesa has spoken his mind on it. Franklin as well. Nee has shared his legal opinions on it. You've also been quite busy on this particular topic. On significance, basically, what does this mean going forward?
Well, thank you very much. And I straight away, I will say that I have an alternative perspective to views expressed about whether or not this whole case was necessary or it was needless. In my respectful view, it was not needless at all. I mean, it was not only the NDC that went to court. Another citizen of Ghana also went to court. I have always held the view that when there is a dispute in the community or among the populace, and that dispute is only resolvable by law, let us encourage people to go to court for such resolution to be for the matter to be determined. So it's not a disagreement on what anybody has said, but I'm saying that this is my own perspective. And in fact, I have on a number of occasions on this matter commended both the NDC and Mr. Techi Bansen, I hope that's the name, for being told. I mean, somebody was one told that go to court, go to court. You think it's an easy thing to do? I mean, for a person to gather courage to go to the Supreme Court in particular, even we as lawyers, I mean, it's one of the places that you say maybe 50 Hail Mary and 10 Our Father. Franklin is there. Before you go to the Supreme Court on the morning before, or on the morning before you get there, because that is the place where the highest standard is required. And so if an ordinary quote-unquote Ghanaian or group of people who want to go to the court to address their grievances or to seek an understanding or a definite interpretation on a matter, I think we should rather encourage people. Of course, you know that if you are seriously aware that your matter is frivolous, you'll be thrown out. And if you are not careful, care is not taken, even costs may be awarded against you. So that is a caution. On the second matter, I think once again, I have a view on choice of language. I had earlier on put down a few about the choice of language that has been used generally after judgment was given. We admit that even as lawyers, once again, when your client loses a case, it's so painful to you, and if you don't take care, your initial expression of disapproval may be so disparaging that if you don't take care, you will even put yourself in further trouble. So when it comes to our clients, it is to be expected that they may also be deeply pained that they lost the case. Nobody goes to the court genuinely with a view that my case is wrong, so I'm going to the court to confirm it. Why will he go to court with that mindset? He believed in his case. But of course, if you are the final arbiter, you won't go to court. You also agree, and accept that the court is the final arbiter, and more so the Supreme Court. So when you go, one of two things may happen. Your case may be granted or it may be dismissed. Sometimes parts may be granted, other parts may be dismissed. You take it in good faith, you put a padlock as much as possible, or you muzzle your mouth to the extent possible, and then you go on. Because I say that if ever God gave us some resources, and He has given us a lot, sometimes even more than we have ever desired. For me, the best He has given us is bold, fearless judges, and a judiciary that determines matter not in accordance with the nature of a person before it. I mean, there have been instances where the government lawyer or the state lawyer, the attorney general or the government has lost even more cases than an individual or individuals in the society who have taken them to court. Now, that also said, let's also clear the air that judges are not generally against their decisions being critically subjected to analysis. In fact, they are not against criticism. And if you may permit me, let me just confirm this with what everybody knows. There's this case of Republic versus Mensah Bonsu and others. You remember that case. And this is what the Supreme Court said. Of course, judges, like any other group of human beings, do make mistakes and should, indeed ought to be criticized. At times, some of us feel that our judgments are not criticized enough, especially by the legal profession. I expect, however, and this is the more important point, that the language of criticism will be tempered and measured. It is not often remembered that judges, seen by many as very strong, are in fact the weakest members in the society. We receive blows. We cannot throw any. A factor to be taken into account when a member of the public is inclined to criticize us. I'll end it on this point.
Okay.
And so, Charlie.
No. Oh, no. Please continue. You have time. You have a lot of time.
And so, once again, forgive me, I'm not speaking on him as perhaps I may have done last week. So I think that
Franklin is okay with it. You know, Franklin will not keep quiet if he's not okay.
Once again, not about keeping. I've said that judges expect that we critique their decisions, but I'm saying that, for example, the position of the judges that is uninformed or may be attributed to the fact that they may not have read the brief. I mean, the brief of the amicus curiae was attached to the processes that they filed. So they definitely would have read it. And that is why they ask whether or not, if the amicus curiae had read the earlier case, they would have realized, in their view, that they were not bringing something substantially different from what was on record. So I think the use of the term uninformed perhaps is a bit unjudicial. But of course, we are not in the court. But for us as the general public and those of us who have a higher duty, I think it is just important that I may be permitted to point this out, not directly against Franklin, but at least, or those he represents, but to the general public. And I'm not professing to be a saint in this matter. We all can slip or maybe use terms that we may not have known may be offensive or scandalous. So that is the point. Now, another point I want to make is that let's also agree that at the time the NDC at least filed the writ in the Supreme Court, the CI 126 or the amendment to the existing CI had not been, in fact, enacted into law. And so the impression was created, in my view, in the reliefs, especially the first relief, that the Electoral Commission has no power to, for example, ask that the existing voter card cannot be used, and that any attempt to do so will amount to arbitrary infringement of accrued rights of persons who have already been registered. It is true that the EC has some legally funded independence. That in itself is a limited one. And that is why the EC cannot just get up and say that this year we are going to take only national identification card or Ghana card and also passports. And if anybody doesn't have any of these, somebody may guarantee for you. They had to send it to Parliament. If they were that absolutely independent, that would have been the law. And you remember, even Parliament had to debate over it. and after the debate, some form of determination was made by voting. And so it has never been the law that the EC is absolutely independent. Again, as I said the last time, the EC has already gone to Parliament, presented a case before Parliament for some monies to be granted them. Parliament has granted the funds, as it may have been varied. So, and it is to be used for new facilities to ensure that that those eligible voters register. Before I forget, I want us to also, if you may permit me, look critically at the consequential orders.
Please do.
Because I'm a bit worried that, of course, it's the right of people to express their views on a decision of the court. And so also, it's the right of others to either reply or also express their view. I am worried that some persons are calling on others to, for example, go to the registration centers with their, what if I may call it, the existing voters ID card, which under CR 126, it's not permissible. And not only that.
You've heard that? Where?
Oh yes. Oh yes. If go online, it's there. I mean, I hate to mention names, but people have said that calling on Ghanaians, eligible voters, to go to the registration center and use their existing ID card, the one that was previously issued, is there. You can check.
Okay.
I won't speak in vain on this matter. Forgive me.
No worries.
I understand you. I understand. But the point I'm making is, and to clarify or highlight to the general public, that not only is it unlawful to present the existing voter ID card or birth cert or anything not contained in CI 126, but also it is a direct disobedience to the orders issued by the Supreme Court under Article 2. Article 2 is very clear. And therefore, when the Supreme Court issues orders under Article 2, which it has done, and let me just read quickly the first part of the consequential orders at page 5.
Yes.
In the exercise of the powers conferred on us under Article 2.2 of the Constitution 1992, we hereby make the following orders. The Article 2.2 says, the Supreme Court shall, for purposes of a declaration under clause 1 of this article, make such orders and give such directions as it may consider appropriate for giving effect or enabling effect to be given to the declaration so made. And any person, this is clause 3, or group of persons of whom an order or direction is addressed under clause 2 of this article by the Supreme Court shall duly obey and carry out the terms of the orders or directions. 4, failure to obey, and this is what I wish to highlight, or carry out the terms of an order or directions made or given under clause 2 of this article constitutes a high crime. Constitutes a high crime under this constitution, and shall, in the case of the president or the vice president, constitute a ground for removal from office under this constitution. And finally, 5, a person convicted of a high crime under clause 4 of this article shall be liable to imprisonment, not exceeding 10 years without the option of a fine, or and not be eligible for election or for appointment to any public office for 10 years, beginning with the date of the expiration of the term of imprisonment. So these orders issued by the Supreme Court under Article 2.2 are very serious orders and directions. And the Supreme Court went on to state that it is hereby ordered that all stakeholders and the Ghanaian eligible voters are directed to comply with Articles 2 and 45 of the Constitution and the Public Elections Registration of Voters Amendment Regulations 2020 CI 126 as regulated by the Electoral Commission. So any act or conduct, and this is my view, that seeks to violate these orders issued by the Supreme Court, if the person is brought before a court in criminal proceedings, charged with the offense of high crime, that person may risk going to prison for a long time. For me, one day in Ghanaian prison is even longer than maybe 10 years now.
Okay. I have a question though, Lawyer Pong, before you continue.
Yes, please go.
Listening to the former president, he made reference to the differences in date. For instance, and excuse my use of language, I am not a lawyer, that we will get the full judgment on the 15th.
Yes.
And there's a notion that by that time, perhaps time would have been too far spent. How is that determined? What is your take on that?
I mean, it's indeed very much regular. In fact, on the Wednesday when the case was heard, there was a similar matter in court where a lawyer had brought a case to the Supreme Court challenging the propriety of a judge giving orders and deferring the reasons on the basis of which the orders were made to another date. And the Supreme Court, does it not happen even in this very court? Let's look. I mean, there have been many, but
okay.
I mean, but let me say this, that at least even the presidential election petition, the orders were given on a day, but the judgment was not ready or was not available, I should put it like that way. On that very day, it may have been other days or maybe a limited day. But in this case, it says reasons will be filed on or before 15th July 2020.
So not definitely 15th, certainly, not definitely 15th.
It can be filed on Monday, 3 days or 4 days after the judgment, on or before. So it doesn't mean that, in any case, whatever it is, with all due respect, the reasons for the decision can't really relate, or in fact, it can in fact only relate to these orders. So I'm saying that it's for the parties to be inquiring from the Supreme Court registry on what day or date it may have been filed or it would be filed. It could be that it was ready, but one needs to have a second look at specific areas and so on as to maybe whatever will happen. But the point is that it is not new, it is regular, even the high courts do it. But in this day of COVID, they just come, usually read the judgment, the case is granted, or all the reliefs are granted, the judgment will be ready as so and so the parties may apply and take copies of the ruling or the judgment. So for me, it is important that that persons who are affected by the decision express their views on it. But when there is a counter view, I think it must also be taken in good faith that we also have the right to also express our alternative perspectives on the matter. Now, when you go to the decision itself, you see, much as we can say that when you hear the word granted, there's a possibility that you may run with victory at that point. But when other relief that are specifically on point have been dismissed, I think it may, quote and unquote, be too hasty, in my own respectful view. Or you may have had to tarry a bit longer before you make a comment on it until you had fully appreciated. I remember that when I left the court, one of your sister stations called me and I said that what I heard was that, or my understanding was that the EC has been directed to go and conduct the registration exercise and ensure that they comply with CI 126. And then later I heard that a different understanding has been expressed. I was a bit surprised, and I was wondering whether I could not really hear well. Of course, that is history. For those saying that it may have been mischief, with all due respect, I don't share that view. because even as lawyers, even if we may not disagree on the existence of a law, we usually disagree on the understanding of a law or a judgment of the court. And I was in the court, other people were there. When we came out, some were also, in fact, genuinely not very sure of what they heard or appreciated. So if one person comes out to express his view, especially so with all due respect when the person is not a lawyer, I think that too many meanings as to conduct or attribution of mischief or bad faith may not be properly made or should not in proper sense be made, and that is my personal view. Now, so when you go to, what am I talking about? Declaration 4 is a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, particularly Article 42 of the Constitution, all existing voter identification cards duly issued by the second defendant, that's the Electoral Commission, to registered voters are valid for purposes of identifying such persons in the exercise of the right to vote. This is dismissed. So there shouldn't be any illusion at all that the voter ID card has been confirmed by the Supreme Court to be a proper facility for identification in the next registration. Note also 8, but this is even more on point. And order, this is the relief 8 of the NDC's relief. An order directed at the second defendant, EC, to include all existing voter identification cards duly issued by the second defendant as one of the documents serving as proof of identification for registration as a voter for purposes of public election. This one also is dismissed. So if you even match the general relief in terms of the subject matter of this suit under 2 and 3 against 4 and 8, there ought not to be a conclusion, in my view, that the voter ID, existing voter ID card has been sanctioned. Okay. In any case, once the law,
you have a minute more.
That's in conclusion. Once the CI has now categorically enacted that the existing voter ID card is not one of the facilities or instruments by which a person, a registered voter, an eligible voter can be registered, there's no way the Supreme Court could have gone against that law. Of course, there was no relief that law CI 126 was inconsistent with any provision of the Constitution. So how could they have, in the face of this law, gone against that particular law? That binds them, apart from the fact that, as they stated in the Abu Ramadan case, and which they have quoted certain portions in the decision, the duty to exercise discretion and perform a function, even if there is an alternative, and just a second, let me just quote
quickly, Labo.
Very instructive. Yes, even if there is another way by which it may be done, you see, so it says, if the law, this is the Abu Ramadan and Nimaku number 2 versus Electoral Commission and Attorney General, per Justice Benning or Benning JS. If the law provides for alternative ways of performing the task, the discretion is vested in the actor in deciding within the limits imposed by Article 296 of the Constitution as to which one of them will best suit the task on hand. So in conclusion, also let me say that some have expressed a view that this is the first time that the Supreme Court is we're alluding to the fact that an amicus curiae may not be able to genuinely or properly bring amicus curiae if he has previously expressed a view in support or that may appear to be the same as one of the parties. That may have been so, but one, the Supreme Court is the only court that can depart from its existing decisions, of course, with some conditions anyway. And 2, our courts have said time and again that substantial parts of our laws are different and completely not in sync with some legal, if you like, principles in the US, for example, or other common law countries. So the fact that in those other countries, it can never happen that an amicus curiae who has expressed a view that is consistent with that of a party can be accepted. I don't think that a wholesale application to our situation, even if there's a precedent for it, may be proper, because cases are sometimes looked at on case-by-case basis. And in my view, I think that at the end of the day, perhaps, and I'm not faulting my good friend lawyer for the amicus, I think perhaps a case should have been made that even if the procedure by which the case was brought, and even if it is even substantially the same as an existing one, it may be adopted as since it is on record, for if for nothing at all, for their lordship to peep at it, and perhaps they may pick a couple of things in. But as has happened, it turned out to be, at the end of the day, that, in my view, the proper courtship, what I call the proper courtship disposition was not adopted. Because if you want to be my friend, you must court me to be your friend. Otherwise, if there is another person who shares your view, I will ask you to rather be that other person's view.
All right.
Without prejudice in any way.
All right. Thank you very much, Lawyer Yawopong. I think you have brought some finality to this matter. We will move on to the other side of the matter, which will be regarding the MPP's primaries and the acclamation of President Akufo-Addo today, and perhaps even look back at today will be a good day to look at 4 years. What exactly has he achieved as president, perhaps going forward, as the MPP acclaim him, and he will also then acclaim his vice, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And like I said, Umaru Sanda Samiri Afe will bring you some details on that from 1 p.m. So keep watching City TV. Lawyer Mesa,
can I say one thing?
Franklin.
Yes, I think it's
can I say?
Then you have to do it in 30 seconds. I have to take a break.
Oh, yes, I understand carefully. You see, this is the more reason why the amicus could have been accepted. You see, what I hear from the conversation so far, especially from my good friend Mesa, is to suggest that once the Electoral Commission, clothed with constitutional power and has discretion, and comes and says, look, I want to buy a helicopter, without you verifying that whether they needed helicopter or not, because they've said so, and because there's a law that says they should do that, then it means they must be allowed. And that's what the Supreme Court actually said. I see that as blunderous. I mean, in my line of work, I think that, yes, legal basis could be given for certain actions. And I've told you before that if you read a bit of legal history, in France, there was a time when candlestick makers were appealing to parliamentarians to ban the sun from melting candles. Was that a sensible law? But so you see, the rule of law does not necessarily mean that you should be allowed to waste and plunder. So I think the fault of this whole confusion is coming from Parliament, and especially the majority side, because just by accepting that, well, they've come and they said we should do this, you didn't even order for any audit to be done on the assets that they had, because they kept telling you that they were doing ABCD, that the life cycle of these machines have come to an end. You could have done the simple thing by causing an audit an audit of the assets. That wasn't done, but simply because they came and said we can't do this without these machines, and because the law is too mechanistic as well, it has been affirmed. I think that's the death of, unfortunately, the death of our democracy when it comes to these kinds of permutations that are made legalistically. And I think, yes, the courts are allowed to do what they want to do, but on this particular matter, I think the courts need to be quite bolder and move beyond just affirming rules, which may necessarily be slanderous as well. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much. Lawyer Mess, I'll give you...
Just a quick one. I mean, frankly, by and large, I mean, you can throw the blame around. But I guess that the expectation, particularly when you read the Constitution, is that the Supreme Court will not directly interfere in the actions of an agency to the extent that they are not breaking the law. I can agree with you on your view on Parliament. But you see, that's why the opportunity is always afforded for the public to make an input by way of memoranda and all that. So yes, useful lessons learned. Going forward, if it is the case that you have some view that clearly ought to impact a certain decision that is being taken, I guess that it would be good to submit whatever your views are to the appropriate committee to enable them to deal with it. And I know that he himself has, on occasion, appeared before some parliamentary committees to advocate strongly for some position that has been taken on board in the final decisions.
All right. Thank you very much. The big issue, we'll take a break. When we return, MPP politics.
Data, extra minutes, and extra unlimited calls. Not just that, even our extra data doesn't expire. You need fill up? Simply dial *111# to bundle now.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
You were lucky to be working with the president's office.
Yes,
so you're writing speeches. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was a great experience.
Literally putting words into the mouth of the first gentleman of the land.
Oppression. People being oppressed because of what they believe in. People being oppressed because of the skin color. People being mistreated just because of who they are, what they are, whether they are women or they are men or whether they are children. That just strengthened my resolve to do whatever I can in my own way. Politics of persecution, if I can help it, to avoid it or to stop it from wherever it's happening.
Welcome back to the big issue, and thank you for sending the messages. I'm going to read a few. You can also send yours via 055 058 5832 or 0549 986 996. I also do a bit from Twitter in this round of messaging before we start discussing the MPP. Charles Nyame from Asamankese says, ahead of the December polls, the NDC believes it will win if all eligible voters are allowed to register. The NPP, on the other hand, also think it will only win when votes are suppressed. Now, the latter has the EC and court on their side. Let December 7th decide. Prince Henry from Kofodia says, good morning, Godfrey. I don't have a Kuas card and passport, but my son has and got registered on the new register. But my son has and gets registered on the new register. So now my son will have to guarantee and prove to the EC that I, the father, is a Ghanaian. Well, okay. On the vouching formula, I think this will even lead to more COVID-19 cases because papers will be exchanged from one hand to another between the guarantor and the guarantee. I see danger ahead. Let's see. One day, the charcoal seller's child will also wear a white dress, and no amount of intimidation or suppression can prevent the will of God and voters from voting against the government. GSA from Dansuman says, what is the sense in registering a SIM card with a voter's ID? Only for you to tell me the document I used to register the SIM is incredible. That makes every SIM in circulation invalidly registered immediately. Well, I hope the education that has been provided today can, change your mind on some of these, can better inform our listeners and viewers on some of these things. Okay. Akweku from La Paz, I can't read your message. I don't want to be hauled before the Supreme Court. I told you to keep your messages civil. Let's go on Twitter on the hashtag the big issue, and let's see. Kofi Amoa tweeting on IG. Kofi Amoa says, if a new register is compiled in the midst of COVID-19 doesn't produce credible elected leaders, but rather places an emphasis on credible elections, I don't know what can save this country again. I'm not a friend of the court. And I'm also not an enemy of the law. I paved my way through common sense. That which only makes sense to you when you remove the cobwebs in your mind and veil in your face. Stephen Asebwedi says, this is where lawyer Mercer and the MPP are wrong. The NDC is not our standard. We deserve better. And also coming through on the same one, says that it's funny how Ghanaians always fight for politicians. Their own family members won't even go and vote for them. Also, Osher Thomas says the NDC has embarrassed itself. Okay. Nipapo, you are coming in for some criticism today. So, yeah. Alcantara says Lawyer Nipapo is being emotional on the big issue this morning. And another one says Lawyer Japan Mesa is schooling NDC's Nipapo. So quite a few. And Senna says I shouldn't invite Lawyer Andrew Mesa again because he has been disrespectful to Nipapo. Well, like I said, he didn't say anything disrespectful, but Nipapo also reserved the right to respond. So that matter has been settled. Let's now talk about the MPPs. We are the week where the MPP did their parliamentary primaries. That matter has been settled. But interestingly, 41 sitting members of parliament lost the right to contest the coming election. A lot of young talent emerging across the country in the NPP, and also importantly today, the NPP's national council meeting, they will acclaim the sitting president Adonko Akufo-Addo for another term to contest another election, and then he will also introduce his nomination for vice president, and we all know who that will be, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and then the National Council will accept if it is so. And so quite a lot happening in the NPP. So let me start from Nipapo. Let me start from Nipapo on this one. So let's start from the primaries. Your observation, I've heard members of your party say that the 41 incumbents who lost is a clear indication of dissatisfaction, even at the MPP level, and it's something that will reflect at the national level. What did you make overall of the vote and the names that fell along the way?
It is interesting. I think that any party that has 40 MPs replaced.
41, the latest
yes, replaced. 41 replaced. And had to protect, 60, I believe 60. 60.
I don't know where you guys are.
I don't know where you guys are getting your mark from. There are persons who went unopposed.
Yes.
Is that protection?
Yeah, you see, when you
let's choose our words carefully. Since today you've been on words.
I said protected. I have not imputed
uncontested.
He was not contested.
The way
but they jumble all the 65
the ways of
constituencies
ensuring
as protection.
The ways of ensuring that a person will be uncontested are numerous.
Certainly, that's also fair.
And so you can, as the saying goes, if your mother is dead and is lying in the room, and you say she's asleep, when the body begins to rot and smell, we will all smell it. So if, as a party, you don't think that internally you may have actually done yourself some good if you had allowed those persons to be openly contested and perhaps allowed your delegates to tell you, because the assumption is that, or the presumption is that, the voice of the people is the voice of God. So when the majority of your delegates tell you that this particular candidate is unpopular, and the only way you can get that is through an election. If there's only one candidate available to a contest, then you obviously will not be able to tell whether that person is indeed popular or not. And that would only tell when you have had the actual election. And by that time, it will be too late. So for us, it is interesting. We have stated categorically that the ordinary Ghanaian, over these 3 years, as the accounts will say, has tasted alcohol and has tasted water, or has carried water, has carried alcohol, and knows which one is heavier. So if internally 41 of their own sitting MPs, and these are not just ordinary MPs, these were chairmen of parliamentary select committees, very, very important persons, who perhaps didn't catch the eye of their
delegates.
No, they didn't catch the protective net, and so had to go through a contest. Then those who have had the luxury of going unopposed maybe have to work very hard, because you are dealing with voter, you'll be internally, you'll be dealing with those who have lost and who are bitter. You have to quickly, mend and heal wounds. There were persons that were very hurt by the electoral system. And what is also interesting is the fact that there were persons who were closely associated with the executive who then came to contest and virtually had a field day. And the allegation is that they were more resourced, you understand, to engage in the campaign. And we had a lot of interesting things. 5,000 cedis, dollars being shared, fridges, gas cookers.
It's become
in some places as high as 8,000 cedis was shared per delegate. So if that is what it takes to unseat, and clearly maybe the one who was less endowed, having worked hard in Parliament, thinking that he's doing his best, and then someone comes from Flagstaff House and sweeps him aside, and it's because the person has a bigger, what do you say? A bigger purse. Then you might have a situation where you would have to, because remember that you have to get all your supporters first to come and vote. Then you appeal to external persons to also attract, and then perhaps you cross the line.
But there were some genuine upsets too.
So as I said,
persons you cannot say were endowed who took we had teachers, we had all kinds of people. Just to be fair to the circumstances.
I wish them the best. I don't wish them. As somebody would say, I don't wish them. You say you don't wish them well, but you wish them necessary. You don't wish them well. It's an interesting signal, and I think that if they look carefully within, December 7 will be interesting. As I keep discussing with you sometimes off camera, I keep telling you that my observation, having observed all the elections that have ever taken place under this Fourth Republic, I didn't vote in only one, would tell me, my sense tells me that this election would be decided on the parliamentary level. And the party that is able to swing, I think, about 40 key seats will most likely take the presidency. And I'm very confident that NDC has what it takes to and what has happened actually reaffirms some of the observations that we have made, that the grounds are fertile.
And none of those being acclaimed today. Your fertile grounds has significant competition.
You see, I think that, even with the COVID, commonsensically should tell you that there will be no big rallies. There will be no, it's going to be a door-to-door, locally based, one-man-to-man kind of campaign. Because you are not going to have any big rallies, you are not going to have any, fanfare events.
But he did not excel at that before the last election.
So that's what I'm saying, that these elections are going to be very local. And the pivot of those campaigns are going to be the parliamentary candidates. So the participation of your parliamentary candidates, especially the defeated ones, are going to be crucial. We have finished with our lot. They've had time to hit the ground. They have just completed, and you have to do the repair of the wounds, smoothing things over.
But that's what I said. There is that many bitter.
I'm saying that, look, I think that this time round, the presidential candidates probably will be put aside, and the campaign will be at the parliamentary. I don't think Mesa will disagree with me on that score. That there will be very little role, in my opinion, that the presidential candidates are going to play. Except for maybe joining the parliamentary candidates at the various, because look, because of COVID, do you see anyone doing a rally with 1,000 people? Honestly, it won't happen. So the campaign will be spearheaded by your parliamentary candidates, who perhaps you will visit and go door to door with to campaign. So if the parliamentary elections are going to largely determine the nature and scope of votes that you, the presidential candidates, are going to draw, then I'm saying that it's interesting. This
for you is very interesting.
Very, very interesting. That's all I'll say.
Franklin.
Well, as I watch Ni get into the details of the NPP's primaries, and then make categorical statements sometimes to the chagrin of my good friend Andrew Mercer. I was wondering whether Mercer was looking at him with some, looking at him and
suggesting been writing.
because it looks as if Mercer is in a comfortable lead, by the way. Whatever happens.
I'm not in this, I'm never in a comfortable lead. That's the exclusive present.
But the primaries were very interesting. I picked up a few stories that jumped at me. I mean, I think which one? The bigger one, the Pantama area.
Yeah, Chema
Boaji was quite on air. I think Sanda interviewed him, and he sounded as a bit quite hopeless, because apparently he said he had heard that his opponents may be. There are signs of his opponent may have been, these are allegations, inducing some of the delegates with promise of tickets to China. And I wondered why China, because I don't know why China look, but China, and then all kinds of things were being done. And then Sanda asked him, so what are you going to do about this? He said, well, I rely on the Lord. And Sanda said, but the Lord will not help you eventually in this case. Now, the point I'm making here is that the seeming disposition of some people that the elections of this nature are, even though they are internal, could be won by the full force of a party, as in one side of the government. It's a bit worrying. I mean, I know these things happen all the time. It happens within the NDC as well. But the levels to which they've gotten to now may be a bit problematic for the party itself, in this case, the NPP. I want to believe that they will mend fences before the elections are held. In fact, I've heard that they are trying to placate those who have lost with some possible, promise of possible positions, either between now and the elections, or in the hope that the elections are won again in December. But it speaks to the heart of the whole idea of our democracy now becoming severely monetized, and I think I worry. I mean, I don't know how you guys do it, Mesa. I don't know how you manage to do that.
Well, he's going to answer that question. He's writing your points down, so he's going to answer it.
I'm wondering how to do that, because you see, I mean, it takes a whole lot out of you, and to think that your due in Parliament is not significant enough, even though it may be 6 times the gross national income of every Ghanaian. I shudder to think some of the sums are here, and these are the things that, of course, these sums have been confirmed by some of the people who lost. In fact, in one instance, this gentleman said he was collecting all his bicycles, and I think the general secretary said, well, if you are collecting your bicycles, we'll deal with you. He said, I will collect your car. He said, you can come for the car. You know, that type of open defiance only points to the fact that people are invested in this business, and I wonder why. Is it necessarily only to go and serve us, or there must be something profoundly interesting in the House of Parliament that beyond just your name, beyond just your name being in the good books that you are an MP? I wonder, because once you are an MP, you are like at the mercy of everybody. People come to you all kinds of things.
Your house is everybody's house.
And I've been wondering, but I think for me, I enjoy the primaries because I mean, I heard all these interesting stories, and I couldn't believe my ears and my eyes that people were competing among themselves as to how much they can obviously induce the delegates. Why don't you just find a way of registering every party person, provide proof of whether they are real persons who are allegiance to the party? In this case, you will not have anybody guaranteeing, and let them vote for you at primaries, because this whole idea of a few people who should be burdened to vote for candidates actually opens up the opportunities for these inducements. If their numbers are larger, of course, if you have in the constituency and there are about 300,000 people who are going to vote, well, maybe you can share salt and Gary, but I doubt pretty much that would make it. That would turn minds. Okay. Because they are a lot more. So anyway, I wish them well. Yeah. And that's all I can say.
Thank you very much. I'll come to Lawyer Mesa before I go to Lawyer Apple. But I also said we are keeping an eye on the MPP's National Council meeting that is currently ongoing, and I'm told that John Boadu will be speaking in a few minutes. So we will be taking that live. But before then, let me hear from Honorable Ejapamesa. I'm sure he's also excited to hear from the man who runs his political party.
Absolutely. And I can take Franklin wishing as well, to be sincere. I'm not so sure about you, Papa. and if I may start with the alleged monetization.
Alleged?
Oh, come on. Because you see, now, you and I know that in these matters, it's important that we choose our words carefully.
Okay.
Look, I cannot pretend to be an ostrich that some of these things that we hear are not real. They happen. And so it's important for us to have a national conversation, or even the political parties themselves. And I think that the concluding statement by Franklin is very apt. And I've heard the General Secretary of our party indicate that that is something that the party would consider. It's unfortunate that the NDC attempted to broaden their scope of people who participated in their selection process in 2015. But for some reason, they reverted back to the old ways in 2019. And of course, we saw what it is that happened during their primaries. That also repeated itself during the MPP primaries.
Yes, that's what I was saying. It's something everybody's doing.
As a member of parliament, your outgoings clearly cannot meet what your inflows are. They can never meet it. For some of us who are professionals and are still engaged in private work, you would always have to supplement your parliamentary income with private income.
You live on that.
And look, it's not sustainable. The demands, and sometimes it's not even about demand. When people come to you in the constituency and they have a need, you can't help it than to find ways to help them meet it, because these are basic, mundane things that
school fees.
Well, now that His Excellency the President has introduced the free SHS, it has reduced the spate of payment of school fees. And I, in particular, took a decision that, look, common fund that, because I come from Metropolis, where many of our infrastructure is already in place, some of the things that you cannot really fund, roads in new developing communities, you can't fund it with your common fund at all.
Yeah.
So I decided that we're going to use that to be purely for scholarship for people who are in the tertiary institutions, and so have a secretariat that manages it, review applications, and then we do a letter to the Judicial Assembly, who then write checks in the name of the schools for people to, and these are real. Somebody calls you in the morning and says that I haven't eaten, I need 20 Ghana cedi. How are you going to say that I don't have it? And if you have to include, and that in itself, you can't fund with your MP salary. And if you have to add primaries, and the cost that we hear people who contested are expending, if indeed they are true, then it is something
you went unopposed.
Absolutely, I'm lucky.
Was you at the Metropolis, second D?
Thankfully, in 2015, I went unopposed as well.
Wow.
And so I haven't had the experience with the levels of expenditure that people claim to be making. But I guess that to the extent that our party leadership have indicated an intent to review the process and broaden the scope so that it will be difficult for you to then the possibility of influencing a few people who then are selected as party constituency police station executives to, if you like, put their vote on sale, for want of a better word, is minimized to the barest minimum.
What's your take on the loss of parliamentary experience?
It's
41, and like Paku said, some of them quite significant leaders.
I was going to deal with it on two levels.
Okay, sure.
Pure parliamentary work, yes, I agree that the loss of experience with some key personalities is going to pose problems for us, particularly if we don't have new people coming in who have those competencies to apply, even though it will take them some time to adjust to the workings of Parliament. Those people then can fill the gap or the void that will be left by some of the people who have left. I mean, I'll single out my very good friend Asbi Abua, who is the chairman of the Finance Committee. Has been excellent. Of course, there were people who occupied those roles before he came. But during his second term in Parliament, of course, he was a member of the committee during the first term. During the second term, when he became the chairman of the committee, I mean, the levels that people are attesting to the way that he's managed the committee over the past 3.5 years, in itself speaks to the level of work that he's put in there. You can speak of, and I'm a friend of the committee, so I attend their meetings and I'm aware of what it is that transpires there. I mean, you can never tell whether some of my colleagues who are first termers, and many of them who are on the finance committee and have economics background, finance background, themselves have lost. Whether new people will come in to, as it were, provide some skills to fill the gap. But of course, even when that happens, you are not likely to be a chairman of the committee in your first term. And so I guess that the party, would have to readjust maybe some some other mechanisms will have to be put in place to ensure that we have some complementary skills set in that area. You take Abdallah, Banda, for instance.
Legal and constitutional.
I mean, I used to be a member of the committee, and I know the value with which he brings to the table. Of course, I cannot speak to other committees, but clearly, trade and industry, education, and the like. But you see, and so yes, Parliament is likely to suffer, at least in the short term, and that in itself is going to be the 8th Parliament, because their term still runs through December 6th of January 2021. But the excitement that the loss of parliamentarians in typically MPP strongholds that our friends in the NDC is then indicating that in itself amounts to some weakness.
What did you say that
and that the ground then becomes fertile for them. It's surprising. Because under what circumstances is your party going to win in Kwadaso, for instance? How are you going to win in New Job in South? How are you going to win in Bantama? These are seats that are typical MPP seats.
But they might improve their numbers. That is all they need.
Hold on. Oh, please.
They don't necessarily need to win it.
Please. Godfred, wait. It's like saying that because Ashama lost in Buem to Kofi Adams, NPP is going to make gains in Buem constituency. How? Or that some other of your aspirants, Yileche, lost.
You expect me to give you a strategy?
So you see, so I'm trying to tell you that don't tickle yourselves too early. Because I see it as our party being attractive.
Okay.
Such that our base are interested in participating in the process.
All right.
Okay? And so, look, 2020 election, you yourselves, you know that it's given. Except that we all will have to work to justify the confidence that the people of Ghana have in His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and to renew his mandate with another emphatic turnout.
The party is affirming that today.
Absolutely. And today is an exciting day for me, particularly because it's been a tortuous journey back and forth. You don't even have a candidate. When we made a call on them, now where's your running mate? But in the next couple of hours, MPP will have the full complement of not only its presidential ticket, but the parliamentary ticket. Are you aware that as we speak, there are about 28 or so constituencies that they don't even have candidates? The NDC. 5 months to an election, yet they say that they are ready, we are not.
When nominations open, then we'll know whether we have candidates or not.
Please, you see, only a few weeks ago, when we all knew that it is only His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo who has picked nomination forms, and that for all intents and purposes, substantially, he is the candidate of the MPP. You guys told us that the formality has not been done.
But do we have any parliamentary candidates?
So I'm saying that you may, in substance, have candidates that you have kept in your pocket. That's your cup of tea. But to the Ghanaian public, you don't have the full complement of 275 candidates that your party, through its constitution, have selected to contest the 2020 general election. As a matter of fact,
have nominations be open? Nominations are not be open by the EC. So what is happening? What is this premature?
You see, I'm not being premature. I'm only relating your own comments with what is on the ground. And to tell you that, you see, the salt and water analogy that you placed. Yes, I agree with you. But as to whether yours is the alcohol and ours is the water or the other way around, the good people of this country will decide on November 7th. But we are poised for our campaign. I know it's going to be retail. Our campaign manager has indicated quite strongly that we're not going to depart from what it is that we did in 2019. 2016. We're going to go out there, engage the electorate, reaffirm our commitment to them, tell them what it is that we have achieved with the mandate that they gave us in 2016. Honest, candid, transparent manner, no hiding of any information, as the Vice President did on the 13th of February, that yes, we committed to these programs that would be implemented to uplift the life of the Ghanaian people. We have attained so much of them. This much we are still working on, and yes, some of them we have not addressed. And then we'll compare your track record when you were in government between 2009 and 2012.
I thought the Green Book
your
debate was
first
over.
term, you would be good to listen to me.
Okay.
Because
I'm
you
surprised.
strangely,
I thought this Green Book debate was not going to come up again.
the Green Book debate I will have any day.
Okay.
Because I don't have short memory.
I'm so surprised. I thought this issue
I am
was
very much aware that the so-called infrastructural achievements that Mr. Mahama touts himself with,
like the Tema over.
no problem.
That you did it.
That he cut.
The Pokwasi one, you did it.
That he cut the sword in November 2016.
Or the Subu one, you did it.
When there was no funding. Indeed, we were told at the time when he was cutting the sword for the Tema interchange that they were going to use a 66 million World Bank facility to do the construction. That was a palpable falsehood.
One airport,
because
they have not done. One
indeed,
hospital, they have not
and
done.
in fact,
So what do you want to talk about infrastructure?
the Japanese grant that was deployed for that project itself was signed under the MPP administration. But that's fine. You see,
But I say struggling. One infrastructure, one
Struggling.
hospital, then one hospital, one.
Right. Okay.
I have-
So
I have
gentlemen,
just one.
let me.
No.
You see,
Maybe
you are
one
letting
airport.
Lawyer Mesa get into his documents.
He
Lawyer
has
Mesa,
not got
don't
anything.
bring it out.
He has
We are
not-
going. Calm down. We are going to Alisa Hotel, gentlemen. We are going to the Alisa Hotel, where the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. John Boadu. Yes. Yes, I'll let you finish. So let's go to Alisa quickly and hear Mr. John Boadu address the National Council meeting. After that, the big issue will return.
Presidential candidate elect for the 2020 presidential and parliamentary election. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep standing. We are not finished yet. The presidential candidate. Okay, please be seated. The media is going to capture it once again. Thank you very much. At this stage, Mr. Chairman, on your behalf, I have the singular honor to introduce to you once again the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party election 2020. Put your hands together for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He's going to deliver his acceptance speech. Please do listen. Thank you very much.
First Lady, beloved, beautiful Rebecca, Vice President, Second Lady, our dynamic Samira, President Kufuor, Chairman, General Secretary, Chairman of the Council of Elders, Majority Leader in Parliament, members of the National Council, officials of the New Patriotic Party, officials of the Electoral Commission. I thank Almighty God for the honor done me today by you, members of the National Council of the New Patriotic Party, acclaiming me as the presidential candidate of the party for the 7th December 2020 general elections. I shall, with God's help, do everything in my power to justify your decision and lead this most deserving party to another victory in December. I accept in all humility your decision. The rules of the Electoral Commission with God's help and the Constitution of the Republic do everything in my power require that at the time of filing my nomination, I should indicate the identity of my running mate, who, if God permits, will be the Vice President of the Republic. The Constitution of our party provides in Article 13(3) that the vice presidential candidate shall be selected upon the nomination of the presidential candidate in consultation with the National Council. So today, I have the great honor to put into consultation with you, the members of the National Council, my choice of running mate for the 4th time, the excellent, hard-working Vice President. Alhaji Muhammadu Bawumia. With your endorsement, the party will complete its presidential ticket, a feat that appears to elude some of our opponents. We have no such difficulty. We have a most fitting person to feature on our ticket. And I give you Mr. Digital. Mr. You and I were not there. The economic prophet, the Adam Smith of Wale Wale, my good and loyal friend, Alhaji Muhammadu Bawumia, who has worked so tirelessly and effectively in the last 4 years to support me in government. Members of the National Council, I await your decision.
Hello, 1, 2. Hello. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, I hand over to the national chairman.
Just as you heard, Mr. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo
just informed you, his choice is Alhaji Bawumia. Do you accept it or not? Rise up by saying so. It's overwhelmingly yes.
Strong and mighty, it's already going on. See, I'm an overcomer. Listen, no weapon fashioned against me shall prosper. For the greater one lives in me, it does. Yes, it's already going on. See, I'm an overcomer. I say it's already going on. It's already going on. See, I'm an overcomer. So yes, wedding Kuni. Over Satan's power. Jesus, no, no, no.
Thank you very much. Let's get seated. Let's get seated. Thank you. Thank you very much. Chobai! Let me see the room fire up. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The presidential candidate for election 2020 has been unveiled. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is also the President of the Republic of Ghana and the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. Choboy! His running mate has been chosen and endorsed. At this stage, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I humbly invite the running mate of election 2020, who is also the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Aktabir.
Jesus, no. Jesus, no. I mean, I'm born to say, Jesus, no. Strong and mighty, it's waiting on you. See, I'm an overcomer. Listen, no weapon fashioned against me shall prosper. For the greater one lives in me. It's waiting on you. See, I'm an overcomer. I say, it's waiting on you. It's waiting on me. States and power. See, I'm an overcomer. I say, yes, wedding Kuni. Yes, wedding Kuni. All states and power. I'm an overcomer. I'm a big now. I'm going to Hosanna. Jesus, no.
Kukrudu. National Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Freddie Blay, Your Excellency, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Your Excellency, former President John Agyekum Kufuor, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, Second Lady, my dear Samira Bawumia, members of the National Council, members of the Council of State, Chief of Staff, Senior Minister, Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, Chairman and members of the Council of Elders, National, Regional, Constituency, and polling station executives who may be listening, rank and file of the Kukrudu family, members of the media, fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen, Salamu Alaikum. I thank the Almighty God for this historic day. I want to express my profound gratitude and appreciation to His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for the honor of reaching out again to select me for the 4th time to serve as his running mate. His running mate, and inshallah, the next president, vice president of the Republic in 2021. This day is historic because it has never happened before in the history of our country that a presidential candidate will select the same running mate 4 times in a row. It has never happened before. His Excellency the President selected me in 2008 against all odds. In 2012, in 2016, and now in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, this tells you about the man, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that I have come to know over the last few years. He is a strong leader. He's a caring leader, a God-fearing leader, a trustworthy leader, and a consistent leader. He could have dropped me in 2012, and he could have dropped me in 2016, but he stuck with me, and I am so honored that he did, and I am eternally grateful. Mr. President, I'll never take the trust and loyalty you have reposed in me for granted, and I'll continue to do everything in my capacity to support you in the execution of your mandate as President. Sir, it has been a privilege and an honor working for you, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity. God bless you. Mr. President, you have chosen me for the 4th time, and inshallah, the people of Ghana will give you 4 more years to do more for Ghanaians. Furthermore, I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to the members of the National Executive Committee and the National Council of our party. I thank them most sincerely for their overwhelming endorsement of my nomination. What can I say more in appreciation to all members and sympathizers of the New Patriotic Party from polling station through constituency to regional and national level. You have loved me, you've cared for me, you've appreciated me, and I say God bless you all. I stand here today because of the sacrifices of my family, my parents, the love of my dear wife Samira, my children, my brothers and sisters, my departed dear friend Kwabena Boydu, and my entire family. I thank you all very much. As a believer in and practitioner of the liberal democratic values and principles of the Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition, like all of you here, I have been inspired throughout my life by the thinking and deeds, sacrifices and accomplishments of such great political icons of our country and party, such as Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Chief S.D. Dombo, Edward Akufo-Addo, William Oforiatta, Alhaji Yakubu Tali Tolona, Bechibi Lampe, Professor K. Buzia, Jato Kalio, Naaba Ifa Kabo, Alhaji Aliu Mahama, C.K. Tedam, S.G. Anto, Alberta Jude Boahing, Araram Ponsa, J.B. Darocha, Hawa Yakubu, Gladys Asma, J.H. Mensah, and our own gentle giant, the great J.A. Kufuor, among others. Without them, I would not be here. I'm so indebted to so many men and women who have sacrificed and continue to sacrifice for our party and our country on a daily basis without reward or recognition. Mr. Chairman, it is our collective responsibility as members of the great Kukurudu family and as Ghanaians to ensure that the sacrifices of these great men and women have not been in vain. I'm therefore acutely aware of the sacred responsibility that has once again been entrusted in me by the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and our great party. It is a responsibility I will execute with utmost integrity, respect for our elders, members of our party, and members of other political parties. Mr. Chairman, I associate myself with the view of my boss, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that politics is a call to service. It is about serving your country and delivering concrete results that improve on the welfare of your fellow citizens, without selfishness, dedication, honesty, transparency, and with the utmost integrity. I believe that an opportunity to serve Ghana is an opportunity and a privilege to serve all Ghana, regardless of ethnicity, gender, religion, education, income, and so on. It is in this context, ladies and gentlemen, that the policies of the New Patriotic Party, as implemented under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo should be analyzed. We have delivered and are delivering on at least 78% of the promises we made to the people of Ghana and across the spectrum of economic and social policies. We have not only delivered on our promises, we have performed much better than the incompetent alternative. Much, much better. They say we have short memories, but I don't think you can say that about the elephant. We recall that 8 years in office, after 8 years in office, the result of their economic mismanagement was declining growth, high and constantly rising inflation, rapidly depreciating currency, loss of business confidence, high unemployment, poorly regulated financial services sector, a collapsing NHIS, no ambulance system to speak about, doomsaw, 45% average annual increase in electricity prices, increases in taxes, the freeze on public recruitment, cuts in research allowances, termination of teachers and nursing training allowance, teachers arrears paid only 3 months after working for many years, corrupt practices associated with acquisition of passports, driver's licenses, and so on. Finally, they ended up with the IMF for a bailout. Notwithstanding this abysmal performance in office, they are still trying to make a comeback to give us an additional dose of their incompetence. Mr. Chairman, I know they don't read, but I entreat them to take a look at the data to get better informed on our performance vis-à-vis theirs. They should not only read the data, but they should try to understand it so that they don't mislead Ghanaians like their mosquito general tried to do after the verdict of the Supreme Court on Thursday. If they study the data, they would realize that for our first term in office, we have not just performed better, but we have performed overwhelmingly better across the board. Mr. Chairman, any claim to better management of the economy must ultimately reflect in the lives of the people. How have we been able to reduce the suffering of our people and make life easier for them after 3.5 years in office? That is exactly what President Nana Akufo-Addo has done. We have ended the suffering associated with doomsaw. We have reduced electricity tariffs by 10.9% compared to a cumulative increase of 264% under the NDC. And we have further reduced tariffs by 50% for the months of April, May, and June this year. We provided free water for households in April, May, and June. Petroleum prices have increased by half the rate that they did under the NDC. We have doubled the capitation grant, established NAPCO, created jobs, and stopped the freeze on recruitment in the public sector. We've recruited over 550,000 people. We've abolished fees for postgraduate medical training, increased the share of the District Assembly Common Fund to the disabled. We've exempted Kayaye from market tolls. We've ensured the implementation of our promise to employ 50% of the persons who manage the country's toll booths from amongst persons with disabilities. We've restored the teacher training allowance, restored the nursing training allowance, restored the book and research allowance. We are paying professional allowances to teachers. The 3-month arrears policy, salary arrears policy for teachers has been abolished. We are absorbing the cost of BEC and WACSI exam registrations. We've sent 40 students from our Zongo and inner city communities on scholarship to Cuba to study medicine. We've abolished 15 taxes, including taxes on financial services, real estate, airline, and so on. We've reduced import duties by 50% generally and 30% on cars. We've made it easier through digitization to apply for a passport, to apply for a driver's license, to obtain your pension when you retire, to buy electricity, Through the ECG app, we've made it easier to apply for scholarships. We've made it easier to send money and receive money from people through mobile money interoperability. We've made it easier to renew your NHIS membership, to register a business, and we have reduced the corruption associated with obtaining services from the public service. We've saved the NHIS from collapse. We are providing 600 million Ghana cedis to small businesses. We've made seeds and fertilizers and extension services available to farmers. Whilst reducing inflation and reducing interest rates, we've halved the depreciation of the cedi. We've paid allowances to UN personnel, increase from military and police from $31 to $35, and we have spent over 15 billion Ghana cedis to save the deposits of the people whose banks were collapsing. 15 billion Ghana cedis. Last but not the least, we have implemented the free SHS policy that they said we couldn't do. Mr. Chairman, we have been able to do all this because under the visionary and strong leadership of the President, we have managed the economy much better. After 8 years in government, the NDC economy could not afford to pay teacher training allowances of just 60 million Ghana cedis. That economy, it could not afford to pay. So they had to cancel the teacher training allowance. In our first year in government, we restored these allowances, reduced and abolished 15 taxes, implemented the free SHS. In fact, by 2019, free SHS, NAPCO, the tax decisions, the tax deductions, teacher and nursing training allowances, and the cost of cleaning up the financial sector mess that we inherited was a total of 20.14 billion Ghana cedis. 20.14 billion Ghana cedis. So how can an economy that could not afford 60 million Ghana cedis on teacher training allowances be able to undertake an additional 20 billion Ghana cedis expenditure in just 3 years? This is why the NDC never believed that free SHS, which is costing us over 2 billion Ghana cedis annually, was possible immediately. We made it possible, and the difference is the competence of the economic management under the strong and decisive leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore important that we stay the course and not play chaskele with the economy. Incompetent economic management has major consequences. The money we used to clean up the financial sector, over 15 billion Ghana cedis, and to pay the excess capacity charges from the power purchase agreements that the NDC entered into, could have been used to do much more. Mr. Chairman, we have done a lot in the last 3.5 years, but there is a lot more to do to realize the vision of the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The goal, as set out by the President, is a Ghana beyond aid. It is to build a modern, prosperous, and self-reliant nation which leaves no one behind. We have started putting in place the building blocks and systems. Economies work when systems and institutions work. We want to move away from the discretion of individuals to the efficiency of systems and institutions. Economies that depend on the discretion of individuals to get things done are generally inefficient and breed corruption. This is why we have, over the last 3.5 years, started to put in place the digitization of systems and institutions that will drive our march towards the Ghana beyond aid. Many people have wondered why we have taken such an interest in digitization. The answer is simple. We are thinking about the future, and digitization holds the key to the future in boosting economic growth, efficiency of service delivery in the public sector, reduction in corruption, transparency, and accountability. As an economist, I understand that there are certain key systems and institutions that have to be in place for effective monetary and fiscal policy. These include a unique identification system, an address system, and financial inclusion, and an efficient public sector delivery. The application of technology through digitization is going to help us put all these systems and institutions in place. Digitization is the best way to protect the poor and the underprivileged and to have who have no connections. With digitization, I can renew my NHIS membership on my mobile phone or apply for my passport online. I don't have to know anybody. With digitization, government revenues will increase several-fold. You will not have to pay a bribe to get a driver's license or a birth certificate. The implications of digitization for the economy are phenomenal. And by the grace of God, Ghana will become the most digitized economy in Africa in our next term in office. We are on track and we are making good progress. By the end of this year, most adults will have the national ID cards, and all houses by the end of this year are being provided unique Ghana Post digital addresses, which we will start putting the plates on each house. So far, we have finished uniquely identifying about 2.5 million houses, and we have 1.5 to go, and we will complete that before the end of the year, and then the posting of the addresses on the houses will start. By next year, all government services can be obtained and paid for electronically at one portal. So if you're going to Elmina Castle, for example, you can buy your ticket to go to Elmina Castle on your mobile phone and get there and go in without going there personally. All the services, we will start moving forward. We are going to integrate the databases next year, the National ID, GRA, SNIT, DVLA, Passport, NHIS, Registrar Generals, births and deaths, and all of that. We will be doing that next year, and Ghana will become quite different. Today, thanks to mobile money interoperability, the mobile money account is effectively a bank account. And over 90% of the bankable public in Ghana today have this bank account into which they can make and receive payments as well as receive interest on their balances. So, by the grace of God, if we come into office next term, we are going to continue with this process. We will digitize the land registry. We are going to bring in the credit reference agencies, which would make it easier to get a loan. Interest rates should decline. The progress of work on free Wi-Fi to the senior secondary schools is ongoing, and we will provide it. We will aim for 100% electricity coverage. Industrialization and agenda on bauxite and iron and steel and automotive and pharmaceuticals will take place. The President has already stated Agenda 88 that we intend to build district hospitals in all districts that have none, 7 additional regional hospitals, 2 additional psychiatric hospitals, and so on. So we have an exciting future ahead of us. President Nana Akufo-Addo is building a future for the youth of this country, and I'm asking all the youth of this country and the good people of Ghana to give Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP 4 more to do more for you. Mr. Chairman, in conclusion, I would like to state again that I am most honored and privileged and thankful that I have been chosen by the President to serve once again as his running mate. It is important to note that my job as running mate is to support the President in implementing his vision. The best running mate in the world would not make a difference if the President is indecisive or incompetent. I am thankful. I said that the best running mate in the world will not make a difference if the president is indecisive or incompetent. I am thankful that in the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I have a strong, decisive, incorruptible, and competent president to work for. Mr. Chairman, all I can say now is that I wholeheartedly and with all humility accept the nomination, and I am ready and prepared to serve. I say to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the MPP, and Ghanaians that I am reporting for duty as running mate to His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo, the current and inshallah the next President of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you for your attention.
The elephant is, and when they say more, we shall win to free Ghana. I said the elephant is, and when they say more, we shall win to free Ghana. We shall win to free Ghana. We shall win to save Ghana. The elephant is, and when they say more, we shall win to free Ghana. The elephant is, and when they say more, we shall win to free Ghana. Eshie, Eshirad. Please be seated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, we can't end the session without having the Don Dada himself, the man who started it all. Former President John Adjokum Kufuor is the name. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's important that at a national delegates congress like this, the former president addresses us briefly, so we can wrap it up for the first session, and then we'll break and come back again for the outdooring, the unveiling of the Nana Bawumia ticket for election 2020. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, our distinguished first and second ladies, Mr. Chairman, members of the National Council, including all of us, I'm honored and very happy to be here today to witness the outdooring of our veteran, very experienced politician who is already the President of the Republic and who in a way is being renewed today as our candidate into the next round of national elections. I'm sure the people of Ghana will give him the mandate again to continue with the work that he started so ably. The hallmark of our president and his vice truly is beautifully articulated leadership. They articulate the vision of our tradition so ably and so down to earth in a way that the grassroots appreciate, as well as the high-browed. It's very difficult for political leadership to combine such vision and articulation as the two of them do. Their relationship tends to be like the well-known Catholic marriage, marriage that lasts into decades. They come to be like family. We just heard the vice president, the way he summarized the philosophy, the vision for sustainable, inclusive development that our nation aspires for. Inclusive, social interventions. People ask whether this party is leftist or socialist. We are not. But I tell you, we respect capitalism with conscience. Capitalism that is human. And this is why we fix the safety nets. The safety nets below which we do not allow any human to fall under. And that's what the leadership we have today. President Akufo-Addo, Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia, this is what the two of them articulate so competently. And I believe within just a short period of 3.5 years, they've shown this vision, they've displayed a strategy. Initially, even some of us thought perhaps they were promising too much for a 4-year term of office. But within 3.5 years, see what they have already achieved. I wouldn't say we are perfect. No, I don't believe perfection in humanity. I don't subscribe to that. But even as I admit we are not perfect, I tell you, we have greats. In human affairs, any leader that can achieve something like 70, 80% is almost like a saint. And this leadership really is working towards realizing a very high degree of success for political leadership. And this is why I believe the coming election, and I pray God would give us life, and God would also touch the hearts of Ghanaians across the board. So as we march towards the December election, Ghanaians would not allow pettiness to divert us from the vision, the course. We talk of sustainable development. How do you get sustainable development without wealth? How do you get the wealth without investment? If you bring in too much leftist ideology, you won't attract the investment. And if the investment does not come, whether in industrialization or in agriculture or in the services, I tell you, there will be no job creation. And we have got teeming youth. We must inspire them with hope, with vision. This leadership doesn't just talk, it does too. It does the work. And I believe this is why Ghana should give NPP. I always say our party is destined to lead in the transformation of the country. And the party keeps on giving the leadership that will do the work for Ghana. And it's a typical example. Even in the teeth of COVID-19, if you listen and you see, and then, as the Vice President just said, go to the statistical department, check the figures. You'll be surprised with the achievements being done. And this is why I'm so happy to be here. It's not given to old men to see their children, grandchildren rise and prosper the way this party is already displaying. And I pray that the good Lord would bless our current leadership to lead us into victory and the victory should be sustained. Victory after victory after victory. So we give Ghana the transformation all of us pray for. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for inviting me. To the meeting. I'm a member of Council of Elders, so I'm entitled to be here. I'm also, in a way, I was the bridge between the old party and the new one. And it's not a broken down bridge, so I'm happy to be here. And I pray that Nana and Mahmoud would continue, and then the future of the party will be sustained for Ghana, inclusively. It's not just for our party, inclusively. The rule of law, wealth creation, humanity, all will come together. And the promise is clear for anybody who wants to see. God bless all of us. Thank you very much.
Electoral Commission, Mr. Chairman, is begging leave of us before they are accused of being members of the National Council. So we put our hands together for them and say thank you very much for being with us to perform their constitutional duty, with your permission. Mr. Chairman, we're breaking for 10 minutes and we'll come back. Maybe we are not even going out. Stretch your legs, get some water, so we can continue immediately, and that will be the grand outdooring, unveiling of the Nana Bawumia tickets. Let's not forget that we are social distancing, and so we are keeping to COVID-19 protocols. So, Mr. DJ, just give us 1-2 interlude, and we are sitting down in some 10 minutes. We are sitting back in 10 minutes so we can continue. There is water at the vantage areas for you to.
Wow.